There's a moment in every beginner's coding journey where you realize something's terrifying. It's not that you're behind, it's that you don't even know what caught up looks like. For me, that moment happened in a bootcamp. Everyone else was typing away like they'd done this in a past life. Keyboards clicking like a rain on a window, laughing, helping each other, moving on. And I was stuck. Not stuck for a minute, stuck in that quiet, humiliating way where you pretend you're still working but your screen hasn't changed in 20 minutes. I became known for it. Not officially, no one ever said it out loud, but you feel it. You feel the little glances. You feel the way the instructor explains something twice and then their voice gets slightly tighter the third time. You feel the way your classmates start saying things like, "Don't worry bro, you'll get it," which is the nicest way of saying you're not getting it. So I did what desperate people do. I studied harder. I went home and watched tutorials until my eyes burned. I rewatched lessons like they were episodes. Paused, rewound, paused again. I copied code line by line. I filled notebooks with notes that looked smart but didn't do anything. And the weird part was, the more I studied, the more bored I became. Not the normal bored, not "I don't like this topic" bored. This was a heavy, sleepy boredom. The kind that makes you yawn while you're sitting upright. The kind where you start thinking, maybe I'm just not built for this. Back then, I thought boredom meant I didn't have the talent. Now I know boredom meant something else. It meant my brain had stopped fighting, because nothing in what I was doing required my brain to solve anything. I wasn't learning, I was consuming. And consumption feels productive right up until it doesn't. Right up until you realize you can watch 10 hours of coding videos and still be helpless in front of a blank file. One night, I remember staring at an error message for so long it started to feel personal. I didn't even know what it meant. I didn't even know what caused it. I didn't know what to search. I just knew it made me feel stupid. So I did what I always did. I opened a video. I told myself I was learning, but somewhere deep in me, something snapped. Not in a dramatic way, in a quiet way, like a door locking. I closed the video, I stared at the error again, and I said out loud, alone in my room, "No, I'm not allowed to run away from this." That was the first real turning point, because the next 30 minutes were chaos. I tried something. It broke worse. I tried something else. New error. I deleted things, rebuilt, broke again, and it wasn't fun. But it also wasn't boring. My brain was awake. It was sharp. It was hunting. What did I change? What's the smallest thing I can test? What is this thing expecting? What assumption am I making? And that's when I learned the first truth about getting good at programming. The boring part is not the work. The boring part is when you're not actually doing the work. That night, I didn't learn faster because I found a better tutorial. I learned faster because I finally started behaving like a detective instead of a spectator. That habit made me dangerous. Slowly at first, then suddenly. Because once you get your brain into that active problem-solving mode, something strange happens. Time starts disappearing. I didn't have language for it back then, but now I do. Flow. There were nights I sat down to study and looked up and it was 3 a.m. Not because I was grinding, because I was locked in. My brain wasn't dragging itself forward. It was being pulled by the puzzle, by the mystery, by the need to make things work. And that's when coding started feeling alive. I went from being the last person in class to being the one people asked for help. That part still feels surreal, because I remember what it felt like to be the guy nobody expected to make it. And then, against the quiet math of the room, I became the first one out of that bootcamp to actually land a real path. When I got my first job, I expected confidence to show up like a paycheck. Like, "Congrats, you're employed, here's your self-esteem." But real work doesn't care about your expectations. Real work doesn't look like a tutorial project. Real work looks like a code base built by 10 people over 5 years with different opinions, different standards, different moods. It has comments from someone who was angry. It has functions named temp2_final_2 that never got cleaned up. It has logic that feels like it was written during an earthquake, and if you change one thing, 5 things break. In my first company, I realized something that scared me more than bootcamp. I could not afford to be a passive learner anymore, because passive learners don't survive in real environments. Passive learners freeze. Passive learners get replaced, not by AI, by reality. So I started learning like my job depended on it, because it did. Instead of watching more content, I made myself answer harder questions. Where is the source of truth in this system? How does data actually move? What happens when it fails? What breaks first under load? What part of this do I not understand yet? And every time I found confusion, I didn't avoid it. I circled it. I fought it. I made it my next target. That's the second turning point in becoming fast. You stop learning what's comfortable and you start learning what's required. For a while, my identity was simple. I was a front-end guy. Vue.js, UI, clean components. I liked the feeling of control. I liked the instant feedback. Backend felt like a dark room. Databases, servers, authentication. It wasn't just hard. It felt irrelevant. And when something feels irrelevant, your brain tries to throw it away. It labels it boring. It labels it not me. But one day I was building something and I realized if I don't learn backend, I will always be building half a product. I will always be dependent. I will always need someone else to complete what I start. And that's when the identity started cracking. Not because I suddenly loved backend, because I started needing it. And that need created relevance. Backend wasn't backend anymore. Backend was, how do I make this real? How do I protect user data? How do I build a system someone can trust? I started with pain, authentication nightmares, database migrations that made me sweat, errors that didn't tell you anything except something went wrong. But the weird thing is, the more I struggled, the more engaged I became, because struggle was proof I was actually learning. And then COVID hit. And suddenly, I wasn't just writing features. I was leading. My first senior engineer experience came with a project that felt heavy. A mental health journaling app. People were isolated, anxiety was everywhere, and the work mattered in a way I hadn't felt before. I remember thinking late at night, staring at the screen, if this app is unreliable, someone's real life gets harder. That changes you. Because in those moments, coding stops being a career. It becomes a responsibility. A responsibility is a different kind of fuel. That's when I learned something else. When the work matters, even frustration becomes tolerable. Even boring tasks become sacred. Writing tests, handling edge cases, fixing bugs no one will ever see. You don't do it because it's fun. You do it because you care who gets hurt if you don't. Not long after that, I became a tech lead for a social networking app with around 250,000 users. That number changes the air in the room. At that scale, bugs are not cute. A bad decision doesn't just affect you. It affects thousands of people at once. So I learned system design, not as a flex, as for survival. I learned to think in constraints, load, latency, failures, recovery, trade-offs. And that's when AI started showing up everywhere. And people started saying the same thing they're saying right now. Is it even worth learning code anymore? Let me tell you what I've seen. AI does not replace engineers. It exposes them. Because if you don't understand what you're building, AI makes you fast for a week. And then the system gets messy. The requirements get vague. The bugs get weird. The user does something you didn't expect. And you realize you weren't building. You were borrowing. That's the difference between a real programmer using AI and a vibe coder using AI. A programmer uses AI like a mentor. A vibe coder uses AI like a mask. One gets stronger and one gets exposed. By the time I started building products for clients through my own IT company, warehouse management systems, ESL platforms, I understood the real high ROI skill in tech. It's not memorizing syntax. It's not finishing another course. It's not collecting snippets. It's building a full product from start to finish. Because when you build something real, you're forced to learn what matters. You learn how to ship, you learn how to debug, you learn how to design, and you learn how to make trade-offs. And you learn how to keep going when it's not exciting anymore. Eventually, I built Let Fill Mastery, my own platform, my own version of Scrimba in a way. And the irony is, all of that started with me being the last person in the room. All of that started with boredom, with shame, with fear. But the reason I got out wasn't because I found more motivation. It's because I changed the way I learned. I stopped being passive and I started solving. So if you're watching this in 2026 and you feel behind and AI makes you feel like it's too late, I want you to hear this clearly. You don't need to compete with AI. You need to become the person who can use it without being dependent on it. Here's what that looks like. It looks like picking one stack, one, not five. It looks like building one real project, something that solves a problem in your life, or cloning something real and adding features until it becomes yours. And using AI like a mentor, not a crutch. Using it to explain errors, use it to quiz you, use it to critique your code, use it to suggest approaches. But if you copy what it gives you without understanding, you didn't learn. You just moved text around. And the fastest learners in 2026 aren't the ones who study more. They're the ones who can stay in that active, chaotic, problem-solving mode longer. They treat confusion like a signal, not a verdict. They treat boredom like a warning sign, not a personality trait. And they keep building until their brain rewires. Because that's what happens. At first, it feels hard. Then it becomes normal. Then it becomes who you are. And one day you look up and realize you're not trying to learn coding anymore. You're just a builder now. So if you don't know what to build yet, drop a comment saying, I'm starting today. Tell me what you're interested in, or tell me one problem in your life you wish an app could fix. And I'll help you come up with a project idea that actually fits you. Now, close this video, open your laptop, and go get into that part that changes everything. The messy part, the confusing part, the part where your brain wakes up. That's where developers are made. I'll see you in the next one, and remember, if I can do it, you can do it too. Coding saves lives.